Okay, the meeting is now recording. If you all want to go ahead and start, is starting with the chair comfortable for folks?
Yes, I think that's the perfect place to start.
Awesome. Anyone wants to throw their hat in the race or nominate folks?
No one wants to do it. I mean, I'll step up. I mean, obviously we need a chair. I mean, I have some experience. I know some people don't like the fact that I'm a past commissioner, but I can at least offer to assist if no one else wants to do it. If someone does, I will gleefully step away from that role.
All right, other nominations? It could be self-nomination or someone else.
You know, I'd like to add in there that if we're going to do this, we had what was it, 1 year restriction on the commissioner or the chairs that we elected before. Why don't we do that with this also?
Well, this is an ad hoc committee, so
Yeah.
it only exists as long as it's needed and then it disbands, is my
Right, but
understanding.
I have a feeling this is going to go on for more than a year.
Well, typically, again, just because
Go
what
ahead.
the commission did in the past doesn't mean that's what we have to do going forward. But typically what we did is we would create some subcommittees that would handle things like ongoing training, community outreach, all that kind of stuff. And those tend to be the ongoing committees.
Mhm.
And again, just because it's the way it happened in the past doesn't mean it's what will happen now. Typically finding people to step up to be chairs has been hard.
Okay.
Because it is a good amount of work. So I would hate, I think the bylaws will probably take care of that too. But I would think, I wouldn't want to create a rule right now, especially while we're still standing up to try to understand where everything is, where we're going to prohibit people who may want to step up and do that volunteer work. I would hate to exclude people.
What about co-chairs?
Charmaine, can I say one thing right quick? How many commissioners do we have in this conference? Because I'm showing 16 participants.
There's 8.
And, okay, 8?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm showing 16 on my screen. So we only have 8, right?
Yes,
Because we
the
have,
rest,
we now have, okay, so we now have a new quorum. We don't have 11 as a quorum anymore, right, Charmaine? I think one commissioner resigned. So our quorum is not 12, it's 11, right?
There's a lot of community folks on here, so.
Okay, so we only have, okay, so we're good with commissioners, right? We only have
Hi,
8.
I'm here. I'm Lupe Diaz. I just joined.
thank you.
I don't see my name on the roster though. I don't see myself.
Okay, y'all, so let's make sure, even if we have too many commissioners in here, we need to check this. So let's just make sure we have an adequate role so we don't have a quorum of commissioners, even commissioners who are just listening in. Okay, let's make sure we don't have that issue.
I just
Okay.
did a quick count and we're still at 8.
8, okay.
This is Commissioner Ramirez. I think that we should take the commissioner's offer to chair. I don't think we need a co-chair. I think a chair, and he seems to be not only interested, but kind of knows the lay of the land to start us off with. So I would move that we elect, I'm sorry, who volunteered?
That was me, Brandon Hilbert.
Yeah, that Brandon be our chair.
I'll second it.
Who was the second?
Dennis. Or Commissioner Larkin.
Okay. For ad hoc committees, outside council, do we need voting and everything like follow Brown Act?
No, it's informal. It's informal. You all can just agree or disagree on that nomination and move forward.
All right. Are folks agreeing, disagreeing?
I agree.
I agree.
Leila,
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree, Lupe Diaz.
I agree, Dennis Larkin.
I agree, Commissioner Harvey.
All right, if there's no disagreements, Brandon, I will be passing it off to you. Would you like me to continue sharing screen for you?
Sure. I think maybe what we should do is for the next meeting, date and time, why don't we see how much we can get through today?
Sure.
And then we can figure out what works for our calendars.
Okay.
I did, while we were kind of earlier talking about, I did share the link to the NACOL website for training in the chat. Although I did click on one of the pages and it had a 404 page. So we might have to try to do a little bit of background on some of that to figure it out. Let me go to the notes real quick. So I know from some of our meetings in the past, there were some questions and concerns about the components we have and how they're set up. I think before we go too far into the weeds, do you want to open it up to our fellow commissioners to share any concerns or recommendations that they would like to add or things that they would like to possibly change?
Well, I asked Charmaine to send me a copy of what the training was supposed to be before all the business meeting things got added into it. So I think it would be helpful to know what is training and what is not training. So I was trying to kind of pull that out for myself. And then also like what's on the NACOL list that isn't in this training. And then one of my big things after reading Andrea's letter was how much I totally get why we need to know what the San Diego PD is doing. That sounds like more like, like an awareness or background thing. But when we're trying to learn about like what some of these topics are, maybe it's more appropriate for it to not be the San Diego PD providing the training. And I'm not knowledgeable enough to understand which is which, but I think it's important for us to figure that out. So I feel like I need more background information before I can figure out what changes need to be made to the training.
Can you share your screen, Commissioner Momat?
You want to see the
Training schedule,
okay.
of a training schedule?
See,
You want to share the original one that we started off with, I believe in August, or do you
think
want to?
I think it's the one that you sent me.
I have it up. If you'd like, I'm happy to.
It's this
share.
one. Hold on. I think yeah, this is the one I was looking at because this doesn't have all the business meeting things in it, I think, if I understand correctly.
So let me just, if I can provide some background information on this training academy schedule. This training academy schedule was developed way back, I believe it was like a year ago, from the ad hoc transition planning committee of the interim commission. And at that time, it was consideration taken into account from interim commissioners as well as community members. And then also looking at the NACOL website and then also looking at past trainings. It was just a draft that was meant to change as we were going along. And I think that when I started adding on the business components, if you can also share like the business section schedule also, just to make sure that we were aware as to what was done in those meetings / trainings, because I didn't know what to call them, because we started having regular business meetings, and then we also started incorporating the trainings into it because we knew that the commissioners have to be trained. So that's a little bit of the background on the training schedule. Yasmin has been also very helpful in creating, and she's going to share this also with the committee, the community engagement portion of the training, where she has identified community trainings for the commission that would include community panels and topics that are essential to the community. So that's also not shared on this training academy schedule, but it was going to be included in upcoming trainings. This was like the initial training to get the commission up and running.
So I guess what I'm saying is I wish I had, just to help me really understand, like, because there's like component 1, what is component one? Component two, like just for training, right?
Mhm.
Component two, what is, you know what I'm saying? That's what I would like to know. So then I can kind of understand, and, it's community members or not, or, what we're learning in each piece.
Okay, so, and then this is the training that was given out when the commission was actually sworn in back in August. Component one is pretty much the orientation of the commission. Normally, when it was the CRB, a few years ago, we would give an orientation to community members that talked about what exactly is the CRB, what they do. It will also talk about give an overview of civilian oversight of law enforcement, and then also provide a history. Because sometimes people do not know the history of oversight. They don't understand or actually know about, what exactly the CRB was actually responsible for. So the component one was pretty much an overview of it. I know we're looking at this schedule right here, but this schedule is pretty much different than the schedule that we have right now.
Right. That's just because I thought maybe it wouldn't have all the business stuff in it. So maybe I should stop sharing. And I don't feel like I need you to explain that to me verbally.
Okay.
That would take too much time. It's already 6:30, but I think that's something that would be valuable for this committee to have. Like
I
in
think-
writing, if you could do that.
And I think, we had sorry for everybody else, when we were sitting at the last meeting, Darlene and I had a conversation kind of about, I think it's a little bit semantics. What do we want to call training? I think some of it, like the ethics piece, I think that's important. The cities, they're called ARs, the administrative rules and regulations. That's an important thing because obviously as, quasi city employees, we're still held to those standards and requirements. And it's important for all of us to understand and know those. So I would say that those, I think, are important to be part of our official training. I think some of the other stuff, like you were saying, kind of the introduction, so we can kind of get to know each other. Is that officially training? Yeah, maybe not, but I think that's also part of the process of standing up the new commission and moving forward. But I think going back to what someone was saying earlier about, like, for example, learning about policies and procedures and use of force and detention and all that. My personal opinion, and I'd certainly welcome everyone to share their thoughts. I think it's important to at least get training from the department, because if we don't know how they're training their officers, we're going to have a hard time to perform oversight for them. Now, in addition to that, I think it's completely appropriate for us to go out and get competing or alternative viewpoints on that. So I know, in the past, we had the ACLU, they came in and they gave us a presentation on detention stops, pretext stops, things like that. But I would personally not recommend removing the department from giving us their training, because I think we need to know what they're telling their officers when they're getting sent out to the field. And if we don't have that, we're not getting the full picture. But I do think it's okay for us to get, alternative viewpoints on that may disagree with SDP. I think some of the other things, and I don't have it as a PDF up, but one of the other things we had was Tasha, I was going to have a presentation, I was going to say next month, but that's literally like 2 weeks, was like rebuilding community government relationships. And then we also have the ACLU is going to do a racial profiling and law enforcement within San Diego. So we are trying to get some other pieces in there, but we've also tried to trying to find a wide variety of options, so we can try to get as many community viewpoints as possible, so we can understand what they want us to look at, and also all of us have our own viewpoints, so we can bring that in as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. And I'm wondering about, what about having both sides present in the same session?
I would.
We have done that in the past. We have had because we try to make sure that everything is neutral. We would have panels that are neutral, so both sides are presenting. So we've done that in the past. Commissioner Leila Aziz has her hands up.
Yeah, I was going to wait for you to finish. I was going to call her. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we've had that in the past, so we're always willing to, I know one of the community members, Kate Yevandetti, made a recommendation at our last meeting to have Chuck Sevilla come out and talk to the commission also. So, we welcome any ideas anybody might have, and take them into consideration. We can have one panelist come out and talk to the commission, or we can have a panel. But it's all time, some of these things are time sensitive. That's why we're moving things around also. Like the AR rules, like Commissioner Hilpert mentioned, the AR rules for the city, those are important. We have to talk about equal employment opportunity law, equal employment opportunity AR rule for the city, also social media policy, that's also for the city. And then there's like a whole bunch of them, and I highlighted a few of them for the commission. Also rolling out the administration, the laptops for the commissions, the emails, there's PRA rules that all of that stuff needs to be rolled out. So it's pretty much trying to juggle all of these things, and then also keeping in mind the time of the commission, the time that y'all meet, and trying to make sure that y'all are not overworked with this. And this is a lot of information. So we're trying to keep that in mind also as we are moving this agenda along and moving things around. We don't want to miss anything either. Commissioner.
And sorry, I was gonna say, just to add on to that, and let's go to Commissioner Aziz afterwards. I was gonna say, it's also important to remember that we will have continuing education most likely going forward. So we will, again, in the past, doesn't mean we have to do it that way. We would usually once a month in our open session, we would try to have some educational topic. And that was usually like a 15 to 30-minute presentation about whatever topic that we felt was relevant and topical. Commissioner Aziz?
I liked this suggestion on having internal affairs, potentially a criminal defense attorney and a community member actually train on the same day. I don't know about the same panel, potentially looking at how can we do a training that's going to allow us to start reviewing cases. What are the nuts and bolts that we're looking at, the foundational approach of what we're looking at, and then of course we can continue with CEs throughout the time. And I think that's going to be very important to make sure that we keep in touch with different laws and different things that happen. But at this point, our job is to look at complaints, is to review complaints, is to not violate any laws. So what are the things that we want to do as a commission to make sure we're ready and we're trained where we can do what the community asks us to do? So
let me just ask this, is our first vice chair Dennis Brown here? Dennis Brown?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm having difficulty with the volume. However, I am here and I'm listening to what you're saying.
So the cabinet, we've been in a lot of discussions, even though we're not meeting and training, sometimes there's also text messages and also meetings of the cabinet. And we've been talking about how to get the commission trained on doing case review, because that's really, really important. As Commissioner Laila Aziz mentioned, you'll have to know how to review a case in order to know how to move forward. So on October 7th, the commission decided or agreed upon last week to hold October 7th for the deliberation of 3 cases that's going to be presented by the commission's outside counsel, Dwayne Bennett. And prior to going into closed session, there was going to be there is going to be a training on how to review a case. And that training is going to be given by our outside counsel and also the second vice chair, Doug Case. There's a whole process for how to review a case. So we wanted to be able to make sure that the commissioners have that information. And then also outside counsel, Dwayne Bennett, he's going to talk about his way of, maybe a streamlined way of how, the commission can review these cases, but at least y'all will be given that information. Hopefully within that time frame, we will have the confidentiality agreements also back from internal affairs, and we can roll the confidentiality agreements out to the commissioners so y'all can go ahead and sign off on them. Once we get those signatures and on the confidentiality agreement, we'll be able to give you access to the Google Drive. The Google Drive is where PD puts all of their case files. You will get access to the case files. the commission can decide, if they have enough information to go ahead and start reviewing cases and how they want to go ahead and review cases. Because our outside counsel cannot review all of the cases. We're going to continue to get cases from internal affairs. That number of cases that's under a year is going to continue to increase. So we're going to have the commissioner start looking at cases also. And also in the meanwhile, we'll have our chief investigator being trained so she can take on, like, maybe it's the backlog of cases, and also like look at some of the staffing issues that we can probably try to address also. So I just wanted to put that out there because it is important for the commission to start reviewing cases. So we are working our way towards that. We just have to do it a little bit slowly. I know everybody is excited about moving forward, but there's some things that have to fall into place before we can do that.
I have a question. I wasn't done, Charmaine, but you added some really good points on showing us how to review cases. And I think Mr. Bennett, from a legal standpoint and his experience, is going to be great. But what about also a Paul Parker, a Tasha Williamson, and then, of course, an internal affairs person, where we can see how they're reviewing cases from different aspects? And can we get that done quickly, like within the next 2 weeks? And will this, along with, and also, can we get a work plan on the expectations of dates of completion, particularly this confidentiality agreement with internal affairs and the different things? So we know that we're really moving towards a goal and we're meeting the benchmarks and objectives to meet it.
So let me just go back, and I'm going to answer your question also, Commissioner Aziz. As far as like the whole spreadsheet that is all the entire case tracking spreadsheet is what we call it, right? It's an Excel spreadsheet. It has all of the cases that have been assigned to the commission on this spreadsheet. That's how I know like the dates that these complaints are going to expire. I know when those complaints are assigned, who has been assigned to. All that bit of information is included in the spreadsheet. Y'all would have access to the spreadsheet. Y'all will know who filed the complaint, where it's, everything. Y'all would also have those complaints in the Google Drive. As far as like the actual complaints, those complaints are confidential. Those complaints cannot be shared with anyone else except for the commission. Dwayne, do you want?
Yes, yeah, I'll wait.
I don't think my question got answered though. What about our work plan? I know you have the complaint work plan. Well done. You know who's coming up at a year, all of that. Our training work plan to get us going with the goals and outcomes is what I was talking about.
Can I just say this, Commissioner? You asked a question about other people, how they're doing case review. Let me tell you how Paul does case review. They don't. They don't do it. They don't do it by commissioner fiat. They do it by investigative fiat. So what happens is, in terms of case review, the case review process at CLRB is an investigator who goes in and who looks at the cases and who analyzes what happened in the internal affairs case. And then that investigator will go into closed session and present the case to the commission. Sometimes when the commission sees the case, the commission will have questions, or the board, CLRB board, the board members will have questions. They'll go over body-worn video, they answer their questions. The investigator explains what happened in the case, what the file was, what the findings are, and whether or not those findings should be sustained or not sustained, et cetera, et cetera. They vote on it and then they move on. So their process is not one whereby commissioners take access internal affairs files and try to digest them and try to analyze them and write up reports, et cetera, et cetera. Instead of that, their investigators do it. And they have maybe 5 or 6 investigators over there that are constantly working and presenting cases. I can't speak to how Tasha or somebody else would do it, but for sure, IAH would be able to come in and just from a global standpoint, in terms of how they put together their files, they should be able to do that, fairly simply. They could tell you what they look at, the way their files are organized to help you understand when you do look at these cases, if you do, how these files will be set up and how they'll be organized.
I am so sorry. I did not mean Paul Parker, even though he does great work.
Oh,
I meant
okay.
the former Commissioner Peter, because he's an educator. So that's the lens I'm coming from. A person who knows how to teach, knows how to understands curriculum, and understands the system that we're in to get us going.
Do you mean Patrick?
Yeah, maybe I should learn names better. Thank you so much.
I don't know. Oh, you're talking about Patrick. Okay.
Well, it'll be another P later. So thank you, Patrick.
So.
Patrick
you know,
Anderson.
I think that once y'all see what's in the case file, it'll become easier once October 7th come around and y'all will
Yeah.
see, get that information as to what's in the case file. Everything will be listed. You'll be able to see the case file because you'll have access to the Google Drive. Everything will start coming together. I think that's just a part of this training. And I always say if we had 1 week to do like a full 40-hour training, that would be great, but we don't have that. So everything is gonna have to be like, sort of like piecemeal. But we do have, like, as far as the next steps for the commission is to like go over those 3 cases that were assigned to Dwayne, go over how to review a case. You will have to get trained on Fourth Amendment, Fourth waiver.
Waivers.
Yes, because those 3 cases that were assigned to Dwayne, pretty much those are Fourth waiver cases. And
Well,
so
one of them is, Charmaine, so right, and look, Commissioner, so when we get together on the 7th, I've done my case review. Okay, I've gone through my files, and so I have 3 cases to present to you. Before I present those cases to you, I will explain or give you a little bit of background on the Fourth Amendment, which includes Fourth waivers, like Charmaine said, but also use of force and searches, and search and seizure. So I'll just do just a quick down and dirty. And for those of you who went to the training on Saturday, I will amplify or build up or build on that training because that's the way I analyze these cases. And then I will present to you the case, and I'll go over the file organization and highlight some of the things you would be looking for or you wouldn't. And you'll have a chance to decide whether you how you feel about the cases, whether you agree with internal affairs in terms of what they did, whether you have concerns from a policy or a training standpoint, and then you'll be able to move forward. So your case review, just so you know, your case review will commence on October 7th. You'll have 3 cases to decide and deliberate upon on October 7th.
And I think also one of the things, in addition to just like Fourth waiver and all that, we're going to have to, any policies or procedures that the department chimes in on, we'll obviously have to probably give you a quick summary of those as well. And Darlene, I see your hands up.
Thank you. So I just think that I'm seeing some next steps right now that I just want to reiterate what I think Commissioner Aziz said, that it would be really helpful to have the training. I know you're articulating it verbally, Charmaine, but just to say, this is the training we're going to do, this is when we're going to do it, and this is how it's related to, to prepare us to be able to review cases. This is the plan.
And I think also what I heard, and Layla, if you can, I was trying to take notes, and I think I missed something. You were suggesting doing training on the same day, but not at the same time. So not on a panel. You were saying IA and or the SCPD, a defense attorney, and you also had a third, and I didn't get that written down.
I got it.
Okay.
You got it?
Or Layla, you can go ahead, but I captured, I think, both, because she made 2 separate comments. One in regards to reviewing cases. She said she would like to receive the perspective of different people. Are you all hearing an echo?
A little bit.
She has Tasha, IA, Dwayne, and Patrick as educator, attorney, law enforcement, and community. And then she also mentioned she would like on the same day, not the same panel, to have a criminal defense attorney, community member, and IA. And Layla, please correct me if I'm wrong.
I just want to get the different perspectives of looking from different experts of looking at, sorry, you guys, of looking at a complaint. And how they would do that. I really like the Fourth Amendment. Those are what we're seeing, a lot of use of force, racial profiling. But I really, really would like to see other perspectives of people that are all experts in this arena, whether they agree or don't agree. And maybe we can do this in like a 3-hour training.
So one thing the commission can do, because we also have, in addition to the SDPD Academy trainings, we had the first cohort this past Saturday. There's going to be the rest of the commissioners hopefully on October 21st, and we might be able to schedule a 3rd one for those individuals who couldn't make it. But we also scheduled a training with our outside counsel. He's going to go over those same like laws of arrest and detention and those things that the trainings at the training academy is going to also be covering. So maybe we can add individuals into that session, Dwayne.
Sure, Charmaine, yeah. However you all choose, however you all want, we can accommodate,
Okay.
or at least I can accommodate. I can accommodate my part.
So is everyone okay with that? If we do it that way?
Sounds good.
I know we're getting close to the 7 o'clock time, so I wanted to try to see what dates and times work for you guys. I know obviously the training, we're trying to do it sooner rather than later. Do we want to try to just, does Monday work for everyone? Maybe we just try to do the next couple Mondays, if that works for everyone's calendars. We just do 6 to 7 next Monday and the following Monday. Would that work for people?
That works for me.
It works for me.
Next Monday, I'm not available till 7.
Okay. Well, how about this? Maybe Yasmin, maybe we
It
can work
works.
together. Sorry, go ahead.
It works for me, Nicole.
Okay.
It
Maybe we
works
can
for
just
me.
do.
I'm sorry.
No, perfect.
Works-
Yep.
Works for me too, Lupe.
Okay. So it sounds like, I think it works for almost everyone except for next week with Darlene. You're not available till you said 7 or 7:30. Okay, so maybe worst case, we just loop you in and let you know what happens if we have to move forward without you there. And then I can always reach out to you and find out if there's anything specifically you want to try to address. And I'll try to pull together an agenda for us to talk about so we can try to keep things on path. Okay, we have that. And then trying to think what else. But-
I'm wondering if 7 to 8 works for everyone.
I mean, that could work for me. The only thing is I know oftentimes when we do those with people trying to do dinner, sometimes that causes problems with families, but I mean, I'm fine doing that too.
You know, on the 7 to 8 and dinner and Monday, okay. If we agree to do it next Monday, why don't we make it a continuing meeting on Monday nights? And that way we can schedule around it. We can schedule our life around it. If we know that it's going to be at 7 o'clock on Sunday and we normally, the family has dinner at 7 o'clock, I'm sorry, why don't we change dinner to 6 o'clock on Monday night and we have this meeting? At least then we can get everybody all together at the same time over a period of time.
Okay. So it sounds, I think what I was hearing is, do we want to try to do Mondays at 7 then instead of 6?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
You see my comment?
As long as there's no football. Fair. I'm the not sporty gay, so I mean, football's not a big thing for me.
Sports.
Boy, it is for some. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Okay, so right now, 7 o'clock on Mondays. I will work on that. And then I'm trying to go back to what we had on the agenda. I think we had the other thing I know we want to try to talk about was the Standings for Justice letter. And then I will try to get more information. I'll work with Charmaine on the NACOL information that was sent out. Yasmin, was there anything else on that agenda? I don't have it up and my memory's going bad, I guess.
Yes, so I wanted I'll also share with you all just some of the stuff I've compiled, and then we'll attach what you all received in the packet previously, so you can pull from it whatever you want as well. But I can send those out, Brendan, from my end.
Okay, perfect. Commissioner Lupe Diaz, your hand's up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering about the video. I saw that on the agenda there, or the written document that you showed on the display. I didn't get that information. Could someone send it to me?
Was that just the agenda we had up when you probably first hopped on?
Yeah, I didn't get that for some reason. I don't know why I didn't get sent.
It wasn't, yeah, it wasn't anything that was sent out. I think Yasmin was just trying to help us out by creating a rough
okay.
framework. And so she just pulled it up for us to look at real quick.
Okay. And the NACOL video, is that going to be available or?
What I'll do is I had just added that link to the website. It wasn't a video, it was just their website on their training.
Okay, cool.
But what we'll do is we'll send out an email to everyone on this group with all those links and what we need and the various documents. And then that way we'll have everything all together. And then I guess once we also have access to Google Drive, maybe what we can do is we'll create a separate folder just for training so we can throw everything up there. And that way it's all of our resources are in one spot.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
Other than that, I know we're getting close to 7. So does anyone have any other questions or thoughts?
I have a question that is completely different than what we're talking about, but I think it's going to fall into something that we're all dealing with. I had somebody ask me this week, did you know that the time limit for the claim for damages for the city attorney is 6 months? Now, I put that together with, we are working on a 1-year deadline on the cases that we're working in. I know the city attorney and what they do has nothing to do with what we do. But if there has been a crime that has been committed, that there are damages that are to that individual or their property, and we are reviewing that, does the city attorney's limit of 6 months feed into that? And I wanted to ask that while we had the outside counsel here, because I may be talking about nothing. This was asked of me, but I just think that if 6 months is for damages and we have a 1 year to review this, we might, as we go down the road, really look at the amount of time that it takes to review these cases, because if damages are involved and we take 8 months to do it, then there's no damages to the person who's been wronged.
Well, can I say something right quick?
Yes,
Commissioner?
please.
Yeah, oh, yeah. No, you're right. The Government Claims Act gives a person, when they are damaged by government, 6 months to file a claim. That claim is for money damages. What you all are going to be doing is reviewing cases and allegations of police misconduct. And I would not be concerned about that if I were, this commission should not be concerned about it, because those are two separate, entirely different tracks, and there's just no way to control it. So a person has 6 months to file a claim, but the police department has 1 year to investigate an allegation of misconduct. So most people, for all intents and purposes, if a person is going to bring a claim against the department, they don't care what your internal affairs investigations turn up. Frankly, to be honest with you, they don't care. If a person thinks they're wrong, they're going to file their claim within 6 months, or they're going to bring a 1983 lawsuit in federal court, in which case the 6 month deadline doesn't, the claim requirement doesn't matter. And they're going to file their claim whether IA or whether the CPP reviews the case or not, because they believe they have a righteous case. So I would not, your review is not going to necessarily affect that. Now, where your review may come in is under this new commission's guidelines. The new commission has subpoena power, but this new commission has investigatory power, where you might investigate something or you might weigh in on an issue that becomes the subject of litigation. Sometimes there are efforts to discover what you have said about it. And the reason that they want that information is to either bolster their case or to understand the essence of their case if they do bring a lawsuit. So I know that's a long, convoluted response, but for all intents and purposes, you all, the city attorney is going to be going on one track and you'll be going on another track.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that answers my question perfectly. That's what my initial reaction to the person was, is that, wait a minute, these are two different things. But the more I thought about it, the more confused I got. So I thought I'd ask.
Well, you're absolutely right.
So let me just add, and this is for the committee also. We've seen when somebody files a civil claim, or if there's a criminal issue within that complaint, Internal Affairs will toll that case.
That's right.
Will be suspended.
Yeah.
So nothing is happening. There's no investigation. Everything is halted until that civil case is satisfied. Once it's satisfied, then everything else resumes, the investigation resumes, and then it can get extended further down the line.
Right, and Charmaine is 100% correct. Sometimes, and it's not told all the time, but a lot of times they will toll it if there is a claim and they won't do anything, and then your 1 year doesn't even matter.
Right.
I'm
I'm sorry to bring that up because it's not within our purview, but like I said, I thought it might be, and then I didn't think it was. So,
Well, and I think things like that are helpful to know, because obviously once people know what we do for the city as being, a commissioner, people are going to ask you questions about policy procedures, why things are done the way they're done. So it's good to know things like that, even if it's not something that we have to do with as a commission. Commissioner Diaz, I see your hands up.
Oh, yeah, I think this question is directed to Dwayne Bennett. Do we have access to the personnel files of police officers? I'm kind of confused about that. Is that only in the investigation process?
Yeah, Commissioner, that's a good question. All right, under the ordinance, okay, so there's a bunch of explanations there, but everything that you do or any comments that this commission makes about a police officer is actually becomes a part of that police officer's personnel file. So you will be involved in the personnel file process just by virtue of your case review and the comments that you make. Technically speaking, anything under an officer's name is a part of that officer's personnel file. Now, the ordinance gives you access to certain aspects of a police officer's personnel file, but that doesn't mean the police department agrees and the police department will grant broad access. The commission should not expect that the police department will turn over a folder with an officer's whole personnel file in it. That would not be something the commission would be entitled to. But from the standpoint of reviewing disciplinary actions, which is something that the ordinance gives you a right to do, you will be, if you're reviewing a disciplinary action against a police officer, you're reviewing that police officer's personnel file. So anything that is maintained under an officer's name is technically speaking a part of that officer's personnel file. So yes, you will have access to certain aspects of the personnel file. You won't be given broad access like medical information or look, there is language in the ordinance that says perhaps you'll get some complaint history against an officer at certain times, or you might be able to negotiate with the police department access as to a police officer's personnel history for purposes of determining whether or not discipline is appropriate or not. But I know that the police department disagrees with that, and I know that the POA disagrees with that, and they're going to try to limit your scope. But you will have access to certain aspects of a police officer's personnel file.
Okay,
think
thank you. Thank you for
I mean,
that.
I was going to add to that. In addition to what Dwayne said, it's kind of a yes, but kind of a thing.
Yeah, right, right.
Because I mean, one of the things that we're allowed to do is to make policy, or not policy recommendations, but we can make discipline recommendations. Now, the department doesn't have to listen to that. But in order for us to make that that discipline recommendation, we have to know, is this the first, second, third time an officer has done that type of misconduct? So I'm sure the union isn't going to want, all of us to look at their records, and we'll have to figure out how it ends up. My guess is it'll probably be someone on our staff, whether that's the executive director, if it's, our general counsel, once we have it, we'll figure that out. But someone on the commission, I think, is going to have to find out at least how many times that specific misconduct has happened, so we can make an appropriate recommendation for discipline. But that's all gonna have to go through the POA and meet and confer. It's gonna be a ways down the road. And I saw a hand that was up a second ago, and I think it went down. I just want to make sure we have a chance. We're just a little after 7 o'clock. I want to make sure we had a chance to.
Thank you
that
very
comment.
much.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you very much for reaching out and for the community engagement. I am a community member, and I'm trying to learn how I can, trying to understand how myself and my neighbors can learn. So I just wanted to thank you so much for reaching out. I'm going to research after, because I know there's so much I got to educate myself on and learn and seek to understand. So looking forward to seeing what else I can follow up to read after the fact and just try to put these pieces together. Again, if you guys continue to call out how community can get involved, then that really is helpful. So thank you. And I applaud you all for making time and making space. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Since we're after 7, any final words of wisdom from anybody?
Thank you, Commissioner Hilpert, for stepping up.
My pleasure. And I'm pretty informal. You guys can just call me Brandon. I don't have to be commissioner or whatever. I don't mind just the first name.
This is Commissioner Ramirez. So we're all aware that I believe next month they're going to start forming together the committee or the board for the search for a new police chief.
That's good to know. Thanks for letting us know.
Because he retires next
Next
August, I think. It's sometime next year.
They believe that he will be leaving in March.
Okay. Well, then yeah, they should be starting now. Good information. Thank you. All right, well, I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. I will work with the CBP staff. We'll get an email out with an agenda and all those links that we talked about earlier today and the PDFs of those documents, and we can touch base on them again next week. All right. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.